Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, welcome back to the channel and the podcast. And this is going to be a little bit of a different video today from my normal videos because this one was widely requested from a video I did back in the past. We're going to be doing the sports betting 101, the intro to sports betting, but don't worry, it's just not the basic stuff. If you're brand new here, that intro will help you out a ton. And then we're going to quickly move right into some advanced stuff that's going to help all types of sports bettors, whether you've been doing this for years, whether you're just starting out, or whether you just want to improve your game and have been doing it for a year or so. So I got about 10 tips for all you ladies and gentlemen and all you fellas out there to try and increase your dollar-rooskies, increase the amount of money that you're winning in your sports betting, or at least make you more informed about some of the mistakes that you are using, emotional betting, getting the improper lines, not really reading lines properly, just playing with the teams and emotions more so than the numbers themselves, all these stuff. I'm going to give you like 10 tips. Maybe it'll be 8, maybe it'll be 12. I don't really know. We're going to classify it as 10 because it's somewhere around there. But welcome. And if I could ask you 1 second of your time, please, everybody right now in the YouTube video, like button, takes 2 seconds, it's totally free. Big old subscribe button pops up, bottom right hand corner on YouTube. Just tap that bad boy and it really does go a long way to helping this video and all of my other content reach more and more people. These videos apparently are very popular, so thank you in advance. And the sponsor of today's sports betting video is going to be Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight is a prop betting site. What props mean? Player props, a different type of game modes as well. It basically means that, okay, they're going to set a line. Maybe Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, whatever it might be. 260 yards passing, more or less than that, over, under. You get to choose. If you win the bet, you win some money. If you use the promo code Vetri, my last name, this is the current as of right now, right? If this video, you're watching it a year from now, maybe it's not the same offer anymore. Maybe it's a better offer. Promo code Vetri, V-E-T-R-I, you'll see on the podcast as well, will get you a 100% deposit match. And I don't do this for a while. 100% deposit match up to $50 rooskies. So you put in 20 bucks, they'll give you 20 back. You want to put in all 50 and be a heavy hitter, head honcho, they'll give you 50 back. You got 100 in your account. There you go. Bada bing, bada bang. So check that out. Linked up down below. That is monkeyknifefight.com. Promo code Vetri, V-E-T-R-I. Get you all them perks and the extra dollar-rooskies so you can drink some brewskis and win some more dollar-rooskies. It's the circle of life, baby. Let's start this bad boy off. What we're going to start it off with is very quickly, just the basics for the people that don't know out there. When you're sports betting, the most popular bets are the spreads and the lines and the overs and the unders. So for this specific week, the week doesn't matter. It's just an example. You can see right here that the Indianapolis Colts are playing the Bears at 1 p.m. on this date in October 4th. And what you're seeing right now is this says open. So when the lines open, right, when the market opened, if you will, for sports betting, it was minus 2.5. What that minus 2.5 means is that anytime you see a minus, it means the Colts, in this example, that team is the favorite. So the Colts have to win by 2.5 points. Now, obviously, you can't score half a point, but it's just the way that the market moves. It moves by half a point. Sometimes you'll see it move by quarter of a point for the over-unders, but most of the time it's going to move by half a point. So if the Colts win by 3 or more, you win the bet. If they only win by 2 or 1 or they end up losing, you obviously lose the bet. The exact opposite can be the case for the Chicago Bears on the opposite side. Anytime that you just see 2.5, it's known as a plus 2.5. Like this is a minus, so you get plus 2.5 points. So whatever the end score is, plus 2.5 points for the Bears. So if the Bears end up losing by 3 points, you lose that bet. But if they only lose by 1 point, even if they still lose, but they lose by 1 point, you have an additional 2.5 points. So all they have to do is keep the game within 3 points, and you can end up winning that bet if you choose the Bears side. Now, the only difference between the opening line and the live line is that this is where the market opens, and then we'll talk about in a little while line movement, which can move the line. Right here in this specific situation, you can see the difference right over my head, right here in this column where the arrow is, if you're listening on the podcast. Pretty much all it means is that there's been no line movement yet. So basically, there's just been no line movement, so the lines have stayed the same so far. But in some cases, you'll see line movement, like right down here, if I scroll, you'll see a line movement of a point, a half a point, and that is important, and I'll explain in a little bit why that happens and how you can take advantage of being on the positive side of that line movement. So that's the most popular way to bet, is basically the spreads. They also have the over-unders. You can see the over-unders right here. It opened at 44.5. So very simply, if the game goes over 44.5 points, let's say the Colts score 25 points, let's say that the Bears score 20, they go over it by a half a point, you win that bet. If it goes under, obviously, you lose that bet unless you're on the under. So it's very simply over-under overall points in the game. That can also have some line movement in the week, and we can discuss line movement right now. So basically what line movement is the percentage of money that's going in on a bet. It's like a market. You have to think about it that way. So what you want to see is you always want to get, and this is probably the number one tip that we'll talk about so far, analyze the opening lines. So right here where these lines open, right when they open, if it's on Sunday morning, if you're betting on NFL, if you're betting on the NBA and it's like the night before, right, 7 p.m. the night before the lines come out for the next day, that's when most of the time you can start to get the best number. So your whole goal is to analyze the opening line and beat that closing line. And now how do you beat the closing line? Well, that's where line movement comes in. So the line movement will move the money. And here's an example to look at it. Let's say in this situation that you have the Bears on the screen right now is a plus 2.5. If this line was to move to plus 1.5, right? So now the Bears either have to just lose by 1 or they have to win the game, otherwise you lose the bet. If it moves by a whole point, that is line movement. Now the reason why the Bears move from plus 2.5 to plus 1.5 is because a lot of money is coming in on the Bears in this situation. So what that's trying to say is they're trying to then say, hey, maybe you should go over to the other side right now. And they're trying to push the market over there to try and balance out the leverage that the book and the casino has to the other side. So anytime that the Bears move to plus 1.5 on this side, it would likely move the Colts to this side to just minus 1.5. And if the Colts are moving to minus 1.5, that looks like a more appealing bet now than it did when it was at minus 2.5, right? You have an extra point on your side. So anytime line movement moves, the reason and what's causing it is money coming in on that bet. So if there's a lot of money coming in on the Bears, they might move the line to 2 or 1.5, and then vice versa. That's directly going to be influencing the Colts line to try and get people over to that side, because casinos never want to be over leveraged. So money will manipulate the lines. Also some other things like injuries, right? If Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, that's automatically going to move the line. Vegas will adjust that line. But other than that, the market starts to adjust the line based on where the money is being placed. And I go to Vegas Insider over my screen right now behind me, and you can see examples. So I'll just pull up a random example from this upcoming week in the NFL. You can see right here, it says the betting trends, right? So this is for a Saints game versus Detroit. Right now, the Saints are 4.5 point favorites. It opened at 4. So there's been a little bit of line movement. So you can basically see right in here, that line movement is happening because 64% of the money right here, this number, 64% of the money, almost 2/3 of the money is on the Lions. So the Lions moved a half a point in the spread towards their favor to try and make people move closer to the Saints. So basically you're just getting the money spread here. So this is important to look at. These are some trends. Information will be king is another tip out there for sports betting, fantasy sports, whatever really you're doing from a gambling aspect. So wagering. So 64% of the money is here. It's good to have that information and know that, but just 32% of the bets. So what this means is less people are betting on them, but the people who are betting are placing bigger wagers on them, since only 32% of overall bets, but 64% of the money is on the lines this week. What that tells you is people who have a lot of money are putting it on the lines. Usually if you have a lot of money and you're putting it on a team, you're fairly confident. Usually if you're fairly confident at sports betting, you're probably a professional more times than not, or at least there's a larger amount of professionals, it seems like, on the side of the lines this week, based on the fact that there's a large amount of money, even though there's only a little amount of overall wagers going in. So per bet is a higher amount, meaning that those people are probably sharper players overall and have more confidence in their bets. So that's just one way to analyze trends. This is a free website, vegasinsider.com. You can check it out. So we can go back to this page now. The next thing that I want to talk about, that's just kind of a basic to intermediate thing, really just definition wise, is the VIG. What the VIG is the juice. It's kind of the charge that they're going to charge you, the sportsbook and the casino, for using their service, which is sports betting. It's kind of the biggest way that you basically make money. It's the reason why if you look at bets, and we could use this page right here where it compares a bunch of different odds for what this game right now is going to be, the Cardinals versus Panthers, this number right here, minus 110. Sal, what does that mean? It means if you bet $110, you will get $100 back. But Sal, why if I bet 110, I won't get 110 back? That is the VIG. That is the casino's portion of the bet. It's going to work both ways as well. It's going to work on pretty much every line. Rarely will you ever see an even number, especially in football. Sometimes in baseball, you'll see even, which means if you bet 100, even means I bet 100. If I win, I get 100 back. It's not always going to be the case. It's rarely the case that you find that number. So in this situation, minus 112, right here, you can see it's highlighted. If you bet $112, you get $100 back. So that extra little bit of number on there, that minus 112 right there, that is the juice on that number. That is the VIG. That is the service. That is your cost of doing business for them. So you have to make sure you know about that number. You have to make sure that you're tracking that number in any of your sheets that you're doing for tracking your sports betting, or at least being aware of it, because if you win 50% of your bets, you're not profitable because of this VIG. You need to win somewhere around 53 to 54% of your bets to actually become profitable because of the juice or the VIG that the company is taking or the casino is taking, because that's their cost of doing business. And then just another way to kind of identify and understand why line movement happens, right? Why these lines can move from minus 2.5 to then minus 3.5. It's kind of like a stock market, and why you want to beat that line movement and analyze the opening lines and beat the line movement. So if you get this line right now at minus 2.5, meaning that all the Colts have to do is win by 3 for you to win that bet. If it moves to the end of the week, let's say it exaggerates to minus 5, now the Colts have to win by 5.5, 6 points, right? 5.6 points to win that bet. You need a lot more now from the Colts to happen. You need them to score more points. You need them to have a better showing on defense, right? You need a lot more for them to happen because you waited till later in the week. So that's not good. You want to analyze the opening lines and be on the right side of that. Now, how do you do that? Well, lots of the times it comes with experience. It comes with understanding some of the things. You can have a model. You could have statistics. You could listen to other people who you think are sharp. But really, it just comes from experience, understanding what these lines are doing, seeing seeing if there's any public situations, like a team played on Monday Night Football and won, so now they're getting like a lot of hype in the market. Maybe that's being affected by it. But if you can long-term, and this is what sports bettors who do it professionally do, if you can long-term look at the lines right when they come out, place your wagers then, feel confident about them, or maybe a day later, whatever it might be. Earlier in the week, the better for football. Earlier in the day, the better for some of the other sports that play daily, like NBA, NHL, MLB, all that type of stuff. And you could beat the closing line, meaning that you have a better number than where the line closed at for your specific bet. In this case, Colts only have to win by 3 instead of having to win by 5 if the line in our hypothetical moved a couple points. You are going to be a long-term profitable player. It's similar to the stock market again, because if you get in on a stock at its top price point, you're done, right? The best thing that happens is you sell it quickly before you lose all your money. But what you want to do is get in early, right? And then it grows and you're in a positive situation. It's not the exact same situation here, but it's a market that you're trying to get value in. And that's what happens in the stock market. That's what's happening in sports betting. You always want to analyze the opening lines to then beat the closing lines, because if you do that, you will probably be long-term profitable if you can consistently beat the closing lines on your bet. My next tip, and it is huge, and nobody does it because, look, let's be honest, a lot of people are lazy. A lot of people don't want a couple apps on their phone. They don't want to take a couple of extra minutes, but shop your lines. And this is this site right here that we were just looking at earlier on the YouTube video. If you're listening on the podcast, it's just a site and it's a dashboard that shows a bunch of different sports books and casinos with the exact same bet you can place, but the price is on them. So right here, if we look at this, right, Arizona minus 3.5. If you want the Arizona side of it, you want that number to be as small as possible, meaning that they only have to win by a small amount. So there's lines right here as the Arizona Cardinals just have to win by 3.5 points, right? There's lines down here though, 4, 5 points. So if you were looking on your app and all your one app that you have said Cardinals by 5 points, you go, okay, you know what? I like the Cardinals today. They just got to win by 5 for me to get a push. They got to win by 6 for me to win the bet. I'll take that bet. But you just made a huge mistake, because you could have got it if you just looked at a couple other places, like right here on DraftKings, they have it, BetMGM, you could have got it at 3.5 points right up here. So you should always be shopping your lines. And not only should you be shopping the lines themselves, but shop the prices as well. We talked about the VIG, right? So you can get minus 110 on MGM at minus 3.5, meaning that if you bet $110, you'll win $100 back. But if you come over here and you place it right now on Fox Bets, that's maybe doing a little bit of a promotion. If you bet $110, you get actually $110 back. This is an even bet. So if you just take a couple seconds of your time, you realize that, hey, I can get a better number here. I can get 1.5 points in my favor on this sports book on the Cardinals compared to going down here and getting it at 5 points, right? And also, not only that, but if I bet $110, I can win 110 back if I use Fox Bets, compared to if I use BetMGM, I'll only win 100. Long term, this adds up. This adds up a ton. It's the difference between you winning your bets long term and you're losing your bets. And all it takes is a couple extra seconds. Now, me describing it's taking a little bit longer for the video and podcast purpose, but this will literally take me, I know my line that I want. Bang, right there. Bang, what's the best line? The plus money one's the best line. Bang, we go right in there and we wager that. That's it. Takes an extra 5 seconds of my time. If you're on a laptop, it's going to be much easier, but you can also get the app versions of these. This one's free. It's called oddschecker.com. Not sponsored by them or anything. Monkey Knife Fight is our sponsor. Go ahead, sign up down below. Promo code Vetri, VETRI. Get your prop bet money in there. 100% deposit match up to $50 Rooskies. But this is a really good tool that's going to help a ton of people. This might be one of the most impactful things, right? Analyzing the opening lines, shopping your lines, tracking a bankroll as well is another tip. Just managing your bankroll. Sal, how do I manage a bankroll? Just open up Excel. Open up Google Sheets. If you don't want to pay for Excel, Google Sheets is totally free. All you got to do in there is just track your bankroll. How much did you wager today? I wagered $100. Okay. How much could you have potentially won? I could have won $95, whatever it is, $90. Did you win? Yes. Okay. Add that to your bankroll. You now have $195. Did you lose? Yes. Okay. Maybe you lost. Now you only got $5 in your bank account. You probably shouldn't be betting 95% of your bank account, but that's just a situation, right? That's just an example. It's literally that simple. And this is probably the best quote for it, especially for your personal life, budgeting, all that type of stuff. What gets measured gets managed. If you have no idea how much you're losing on sports betting, and maybe it's just for fun for you, and that's fine. We'll talk about that in a second. But if you actually think that you have a chance to win, and like you're playing this thinking that you are a good sports bettor and that you're going to win and that you're just getting unlucky, but you've put $2,000 in so far this year and you've won $0, you're not tracking your bankroll. And maybe you don't know that, but the second you put it on a piece of paper, you put it on Excel or a Word doc, whatever it might be, and you say, shit, I've lost $2,000 in 3 months. I suck at this. And if I want to actually not suck at this anymore, I have to take it more seriously and actually see what I'm spending each and every week, because then I actually understand where I'm at and where I'm messing up. Which bets am I doing bad on? Am I just playing the worst possible bets, which are parlays in my opinion? Am I just playing the worst possible sides? Am I using my emotions? Am I betting on my favorite teams all the time? Track your bankroll, manage your bankroll, because what gets measured gets managed. So it's another big tip. Shopping your lines, bankroll, analyzing opening lines, some of the big tips so far. The next one that we could just talk about in passing is you're betting numbers. You're not betting teams. And here's the thing, an overarching theme to all of this when it comes to sports betting is understand why you're sports betting. 99.9% of people, myself included into that, I'm not a professional sports bettor making all of my living off of just sports betting. 99.9% of people are not doing this for a living. And 99.5% of people are probably not going to be profiting from sports betting week in and week out. They use it as entertainment. But some people don't know that they're using it as entertainment. Some people will put $500 into a thing and that's their rent money and they'll go, damn, like I need this right now. You should not be doing that. You have to understand it. What are you doing this for? If you're setting your lines, if you're betting on your lines lines on Sunday morning, 2 hours before football starts, or 20 minutes before an NBA game starts, without any research, without looking into anything, without shopping your lines. You're doing it for entertainment. You're doing it because you want a reason to watch the game. There is nothing wrong with that at all. You just have to know that, right? You cannot go into it saying, I'm going to win this bet because I'm doing this right now. You can hope that you win, but you can't be doing it life or death, that you have a lot of money on the line, your savings on the line, a large percentage of your net worth is on the line in your sports betting when you're not taking it that seriously. So you have to know what you're doing it for. There's no issues at all with doing it for entertainment, right? If you get to watch 3 or 4, maybe 12 hours of football games in a day and you put $20, $50 on the line in sports betting, maybe even $100, that might be better than you than going to a festival all day, right? Or going to an amusement park all day. For me, that probably sounds like it's a better idea, right? So you just have to know that it's going to be an expense for you if that's your case. If you want it to be a real thing, if you want it to be both entertaining and an investment, which is the goal, I think, for a lot of people, you got to do some of the things that we're talking about right now. You got to track your bankroll. You got to shop your lines. You got to analyze those opening lines and beat the closing lines. You just have to know where you are in this process. It's okay. 99.5% of people, maybe even higher than that, are doing it for entertainment. You just have to understand that you get entertainment out of it and that you're probably not too good at this, but if you want to get better, there are ways to do so. So just understand that. And if that's the case, another reason and another tip is to be betting numbers, not teams. A lot of people bet their favorite teams. A lot of people bet the teams with the better quarterbacks. All of that stuff, well, not your favorite teams, that's just your personal bias and your emotions, which again has to be taken out of sports betting, but all that stuff, the best quarterbacks, all these types of things, the players, the coaches, it's already factored into the lines for the most part, right? You have to try and find those little edges in the data and some other situational stuff that you can look at, perceptions of the public, see where the line's moving, all that type of stuff. You're betting numbers. You're betting the data on the numbers. You're betting the line that you're actually looking at. You're not betting on specific teams. Obviously, you're betting on those teams, but you should not be betting on them only because Patrick Mahomes is on the Chiefs, only because Aaron Rodgers is on the Packers, whatever it might be, right? Because then that's using emotions. That's using your emotions, one, which is biasing you towards another number, and number two, that's already the quarterbacks are factored into these lines, so there's no point to actually make that as your closing argument for it. Again, there's always reasons to say that you like a side of a bet. Just know that you're not betting the teams. You're not betting and hoping to win because it's your favorite team. Them being your favorite team does not influence them to win a little bit more for you on your sports betting picks. So just remember, you're betting numbers, fixate on the numbers, fixate on the line movement, the data that's going to be important, not the teams. And there's a lot of data that you can look at. There's efficiency stats, there's pressure ratings, there's yards per attempt type metrics, there's overall plus minuses and point differentials for the year. There's a lot of different things that you can look at. I have some models on my Patreon link down below for key stats at every single position, for overall team stacks, all that type of stuff as well if you want to check that out. Now, we talked a little bit about how information is key, right? We looked at the spread bet and the money bet percentages, which is important. Vegas Insider, totally free right here. The money bet percentages, right? Anytime that wherever there's a lot more money, but not a lot of the spread bets, you can bet that there's a lot of people who have a lot of money, which means they're confident in their bets, betting on that side of it, meaning that maybe they're professionals and probably are in most cases professionals because they're probably influencing the line. But another way in which you can get kind of information being key is just information from Twitter. Honestly, it's very simple. Just information from news, right? If you're following sites and beat writers that tweet out injury news like nonstop, you probably have like a 1 minute to 3 minute cushion to get that news in. So like if you're betting a player prop, let's say that a quarterback is now out or the starting wide receiver is now out for a team and their wide receiver in 2 and 3, their props don't change for 5 to 10 minutes, bam, you just got yourself a nice value bet in there for the player props, the over under on yards and receptions, because now let's say Kenny Galladay is out for the Lions, Marvin Jones, whoever else is on the team look a little bit better depending on when you're watching this. So information is key not only from the trends perspective of understanding where the money and the percentage of bets overall are, that specific line, that specific week, day, whatever it might be, but also just tracking injury news because there is sort of a little bit of a cushion in there before the lines update on some of these sites. Another thing I'll call out is don't overreact to weather. I get it all the time, whether it's fantasy, I get it all the time, whether it's going to be Vegas, especially sports betting. Oh my God, Sal, it's going to rain there today. Should I really play this NFL team, right? Obviously, if you're playing basketball, hockey, this really doesn't matter. But NFL games, baseball to an extent, weather will matter because it can cancel your game and that can screw up some of your bets, depending if you have a pitcher for a certain amount of strikeouts and then obviously they pull him or the game gets called off after a couple of innings. But specifically for outdoor sports and really specifically for the NFL here, a lot of people are going to show up and be like, oh my God, Sal, the winds are going to be 15, 20 miles an hour. Oh my God, it's snowing there. Okay. Look at the Vegas odds. If the Vegas lines are not changing, that tells you that professional people are not putting a lot of money on either side of it. They're not concerned with it. If the Vegas odds do not move, I do not overreact to the weather. This is the thing. If it's going to be windy in a football game, they tell you that there's going to be wind gusts. Wind gusts mean they come along for like 5 seconds, right? So the only thing that wind gusts are going to affect are deep passes, which are 20 plus yards down the field in the NFL. In the average NFL game, a quarterback might throw like 3 deep passes in the game. If they're trailing, maybe they throw 4 or 5 deep passes in the game, right? 20 plus yards down the field. You might think that it's more, but it's really not. It's like 3 to 4 a game. Sometimes they don't even throw 1 or 2 down downfield 20 plus yards. So if a wind gust comes through at that specific moment and it messes up, then sure, maybe it affects the game a little bit. But that's just one pass. It's not going to be wind the entire game. And most of the time when they tell you it's going to snow, the snow's gone before kickoff. So just track the Vegas odds. If there's a lot of bad weather, but the Vegas odds aren't moving because of it, there's supposed to be rain and wind, but the Vegas total, the overall game total, maybe it was at 45 points and it hasn't moved. Maybe it's even gone up a half a point. Then yes, don't overreact to the weather. That's something else. That's a smaller thing that people do a lot of. Next up, I'll talk about parlays. Parlays are like a fun bet, right? If you're doing this for entertainment, they're fun because you get to pair up 3 bets. So if you don't know, parlays mean that you choose 3 teams to win, all 3 of those bets combined together. So you have to get all 3 of them to win. If you win 2 of the bets, but one of them doesn't hit, you lose the entire bet. But the thing that makes it enticing for people, it's like a lottery system. You hit 3 of those bets, right? You get a huge payout because you get a little bit of a multiplier for taking the risk of pairing them all together. Now, I hate to break it to you, but parlays are a moneymaker for casinos. The reason why casinos make millions and tens of millions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars a year, it's probably a big chunk, just sports betting in general. It's hard to win, right? People are betting with emotions. People bet last second. People bet when they're drunk, all this stuff, right? They don't use their brains, and it's hard to win anyways because these lines are definitely not efficient. They're not efficient markets, but they're pretty damn close to being efficient when you can kind of tighten up that line on each end of it with a lot of action. But parlays are a huge moneymaker for casinos. When people go out there and bet a 10-team parlay and they see somebody on Twitter once a year hit it for $25,000, everybody thinks that that's going to be them. It's just not the case, right? If you're trying to bet 10 things happen just to win one bet in the NFL or whatever sport it is, it's very hard. But now you want to try and get really lucky and win 5 or 6 of them. Your odds are so low. That's why the payout's so high. So that's why a lot of people do it. But don't be betting parlays if you actually want to win money. If you want to just do this for fun and you want that sweat and you want to have betting just $5 to maybe win 5,000, sure, put 10 teams together, but just know that going into it, you've burnt that $5. And if somehow at the 0.0001% chance that it actually hits for you, congrats, you're the one person that year that actually hits that bet. So parlays, in my opinion, are for suckers if your goal is to actually win money. If your goal is to be entertained, yeah, they're a hell of a lot of fun, right? I'm not going to sit here and just be like, you can't be doing parlays. It's all about your expectations, which comes back to the whole overarching topic. If you want to be entertained, yes, throw some money on some crazy long parlays. You're probably not going to win it, but just understand that. If you want to actually win money, stay away from parlays. And something that's a little bit less crazy and risky as parlays are teasers. Teasers you should really only be doing in the NFL. In college football, spreads and points and stuff like that are just so crazy in terms of how quick the points can move and how crazy the defenses can just let up big plays. Same thing for NBA. The points are just so crazy. You can score 6 points in like 2 seconds in the NBA. So you don't want to be doing that. You want to be taking advantage of spots where not a lot of points are scored overall relative to other sports. And that is teasers in the NFL. What a teaser says is, okay, you pair these 2 teams together like a parlay, but you get 6 points. There's some 7-point teasers, some 10 points. You get 6 points. So it's kind of in some ways similar to a parlay that you pair teams together, but you get a smaller payout because you're pairing them together and buying 6 points per team. So for example, right now you see right here that the Tampa Bay Bucks in this example are 7-point favorites this week if you're looking on the screen. If you put them in a 2-team teaser, now you could do 3, 4, 5, but I think once you go over 2 teams, it's going to start to get really unlikely that long-term you'll win these bets because you get less money overall in your return. And obviously you need all 3 or 4 of those teams to now win. So it's more difficult. But if you have a 2-team teaser here and you say, you know what, I want to put the Bucks in this teaser, a 6-point 2-team teaser, I can now tease this team to 1 point. So all the Bucks have to do, instead of winning by 7, pretty big favorites, they just have to win the game. They have to win by 1 point. And then you could do that exact same thing. Maybe you come down here and you try and find another one. You come down here to minus 14. The Ravens are minus 14. You take a 6-point teaser. Now they just have to win by 8 instead of 14. I don't really like that bet as much, but you have to pair the 2 teams together and you get 6 points. You can do it on the opposite side. You can make Washington in this Ravens game right here, instead of being a 14-point underdog, you can make them just not have to lose by 20 or more points. And then you could pair that one together. Now there's some magic numbers, quote unquote, for teasers. You should not cross through 0. So for example, right here, if you were to bet the Cardinals at 3.5, they're minus 3.5, a teaser would put you through 0. You get 3.5 points to 0 and then another 2.5 points. The reason why that's not a good thing is anytime that you're going through 0, you're giving back, you're paying for more money. 0 means that the game's going to tie. None of the games in the NFL, 99.9% of the games don't tie in the NFL. You're basically giving the casino back a half a point because the game's probably not going to land on 0. So that's not a good idea. The magic numbers that you want to be betting through are 7, are usually, so basically it's usually 7, 3, and 4, sometimes 6 are these spreads in the numbers that the most NFL games usually end on. So anytime you can go through those, that's good. So anytime you see a 7-point spread, yeah, you get to get it through all those magic numbers. So that's why this one right here is very good. They go from 7, you get to pass through 6, 4, and 3. So they go from being a 7-point favorite to Bucks to now you only have to have them being a 1-point favorite. So I do think depending on your book, depending on how much they pay out, that 2-team teasers, 6-point teasers are good. But anything more than that, I don't want 3, I don't want 4, 6.5, 7, 8, 10-point teasers, I don't want that. Just 2-team teasers where you get 6 points per team in your favor. Again, these aren't the greatest bets. I'd rather just be betting the solo spreads and getting in early on, but these are at least a little bit of a way to kind of get that parlay thrill of having a couple teams paired together. You just don't get the bigger payout, but it's a little bit safer. So teasers, I'm actually kind of in on if you're doing just 2-team teasers for 6 points, but that's about it. Like honestly, I'd rather just be betting straight up the over-unders and betting straight up the spreads. So that's a bunch of tips. I mean, we kind of talked through a lot of stuff there. I gave you a lot at once. If you like this video, let me know down below. And also hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're still here. Fellas, ladies, gentlemen, all of you. Check out the sponsor of the show, Monkey Knife Fight. I want to do more of these videos. A lot of people are getting a lot more interested in sports betting than when I made the video last year, 2 years ago, the one that a lot of people are watching. So if you like this video, let me know. Give me some topics down below that you would like to hear me talk more about. I can break up these topics even more for you. I can kind of do some reviews of some things as well. Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to make some videos on those. I want to get some more general sports betting topics out. I do videos right now on sports betting for the NFL, depending on when you're watching this, a weekly video there. Sometimes I do some player prop videos. You can check those out. And speaking of player props, go support Monkey Knife Fight, linked down below, monkeyknifefight.com. You get some free money to go bet over there on player props. Promo code Vetri, my last name. As of right now, as of this recording at least, promo code Vetri, VETRI, get you a 100% deposit match up to $50. You want to put $50 in, you now have $100 in your account. You want to just test it out and put $10 in, well, bam, they'll match you now have $20 in your account. Thank you so much for tuning into this one, gang. My name's Sal Vetri. I'll see you in the next one. Like and subscribe before you go. If you're listening on the podcast, please do hit that follow button as well. More content dropping pretty much every single day on this channel. I appreciate all that stuff in advance, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.